Makes you wanna go. Makes you wanna go. Na 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 na. Makes you wanna go.
Well.
Hey,
Hello, everyone. Okay.
stuff you just don't see behind the scenes, but humans, and this is technology.
Yes. So we'll see what we can do with it. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Gab with Golden Bronze, the show where we dive deep into what makes us human and we connect. You can tell we are very human. I'm Golden Bronze. This is my co host, Mickey. And today we're talking about something at the very core of every meaningful relationship: emotional reciprocity. What is it? Why does it matter? And how do we know if we're giving it or receiving it in a relationship that shapes our lives? So this is a very important topic that we're about to dive deep in. So let's start with the definition: emotional reciprocity. A lot of people think they know what it is, but then they don't exactly get it right. But emotional reciprocity is the mutual exchange of feelings, empathy, and emotional support between people, between brother, sister, cousin, mother, daughter, father, son, husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, between people. Think of it as an emotional conversation, one where both people feel heard, valued, and safe to express themselves. Again, they feel heard, valued, and they feel safe to express themselves. Now, an example of that, I just gave you a few, but it's comforting a friend. A friend comes over, friend is in distress about something, and you actually listen so that they feel like you're hearing what they're saying. And then you're supportive of whatever their concern is. Now, some people confuse emotional dumping with emotional reciprocity. Now, there's a difference. Emotional dumping occurs when an individual shares intense personal traumas or emotionally intense thoughts and experiences without considering the listener's capacity to process such information. This behavior differs fundamentally from healthy venting or therapeutic sharing because of its intensity, frequent and or graphic nature, and the lack of consideration for the recipient's emotional state of readiness. So not everybody's already always capable to receive what it is that you're coming to them with. Emotional dumping can manifest through several distinctive behavior patterns. Individuals frequently revisit the same traumatic narrative, often including graphic and explicit details they may disturb the listener.
Right.
The behavior typically involves sharing deeply personal trauma in an inappropriate setting or with casual acquaintances who lack the context of relationship to process the information. So let me put this in context, and then I want your opinion on this.
Okay.
The person receiving it may lack the context or the relationship context between whatever's being discussed to process such information effectively. People who emotionally dump can possibly demonstrate minimal interest in others' perspectives or experiences, creating one sided conversations that focus exclusively on their own emotions. So let's just say, Mickey G, that somebody comes to you and talks about something, let's say domestic violence.
Right.
That's both of us have experienced that.
Right.
So they're dumping their feelings that are kind of different than what you can take in because
Right.
it's adverse to
Right.
your experience, right?
Right.
But they expect for you to listen and hear them out and be uh, to reciprocate their feelings when in fact they already know that you're not going to do it because you've been in the shoes of the domestic violence victim and it could create a really tense conversation. So they're dumping stuff off on you that they know you're not able to process the way that they want to receive it, basically. What are your thoughts about that?
You know, I thought about perhaps the thing that they're talking about might be too closely related to something that I might have just gone through, but
Right,
they're not taking that into consideration. Maybe I got out of mine 2 months ago, and now you're talking about something that just happened to you, but it still stings me. But they had no consideration for that. I think
that's
that's what you're
exactly
saying.
it right
Yeah,
there.
they have no consideration, and they didn't ask you. Oh, well, how long has it been for you? You know, I've gone through this. Is it okay if I share this with you?
Right,
You know, if it bothers you at any time, just stop, and I won't say any more, and just give me
right.
your opinion.
And
But
they're just dumping it on you,
right,
possibly knowing that it's going to either trigger some memories,
right,
and maybe you may not be able to handle what
right,
they have to say. They're inconsiderate to your emotions, but they're expecting reciprocity for theirs. So
right,
that's kind of dumping on you something that they know is very um, sensitive
right,
to you. That's
right,
one example.
right,
And the one that you just gave is another one. Yep,
right.
exactly right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we should never be someone's dumping ground. We should never be their trash can to just hold all the things because our mental health is important too in this emotional situation.
that's exactly right. So, why does emotional reciprocity matter? Why should we care? Because emotional reciprocity is the emotional oxygen in our relationships. So, we all should be reciprocal emotionally to other people's feelings, including not dumping on people that we know are sensitive to a topic that we're about to bring to them. It builds trust in people and relationships when you have emotional reciprocity, but I have to come back to that in just a moment. We're going to take a quick break, everybody.
Okay. Good.
All right, everyone, thank you for returning. So, as we were saying before we had to take the break, so when you are a person that has the skill of being emotionally reciprocal, that's called having some emotional intelligence,
Right.
which is a whole nother topic, but it is basically you are intelligent and keen to other people's, perspectives about things. So when you do have emotional intelligence and you're reciprocal emotionally, you build trust in relationships between people. You strengthen the bonds and it makes everybody feel safe. Everybody, the person who's receiving, the person who is giving. Those benefits increase intimacy, it increases trust, and it increases communication between people because they feel safe coming to you to talk about certain things. I'm
Right.
going to pause and let you
Okay.
comment on that.
Okay. What I'm picking up from this is that they're not feeling judged. They're not feeling evaluated. They're feeling that they can trust you and you're not gasping at everything they tell you like, oh my God, I never would. You know, none of that. You're being emotionally intelligent and deciphering through what they're talking about. And even pacing them through the conversation
Mm-hmm.
is emotional reciprocity because you're giving to their emotional need, and
Mm-hmm.
you're also protecting your own. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes they know enough to protect your needs. So it's a give and take. And when you can do that, you build trust. Even though you're just getting to know someone, it's baby steps, but that is building a foundation of trust.
Right. And when people feel like they can do that, it strengthens their mental health tied to you. Basically, they feel like they can confide in you. It reduces anxiety. It reduces loneliness because they know that you have emotional intelligence and kind of can talk them off the ledge. Maybe let's put it that way. You know how people will call and just need to be heard, and
Right.
when they get through talking with you or the whoever, they feel much better, so from
Right.
that. Yeah.
Right. And
It increases stronger bonds, and it just helps. Sometimes the person on the listening end even may learn something about the person who is talking to them about that.
right. Right. And it takes empathy in order
Yeah.
to listen that way with an open heart, to be generous to that person, allow them to say what they need to say, and comfort them and help them along the way, and ask them, is this what you meant? I just want to make sure I understand. That way they feel very heard and taken care of.
Now I heard you say, use the word empathy, and if you don't want to do this, I can, but I would like for you to, because I'm trying to get you to, engage a little more, everybody.
Okay.
Um, Empathy. What do you think the difference in empathy and emotional reciprocity is?
Well, empathy, in my opinion, is when you can relate to what they're talking about, what they're going through. Emotional reciprocity is that you're reciprocating, you're doing a back and forth with them to relate to them, pour into them, they pour into you. It's just a back and forth. That's the way I see it.
I see that too, but I also see it as empathy is having compassion
Oh, yeah.
and care. Uh, it's different than sympathy, but
Right,
to me, when you have to have empathy, like you said, to uh, be reciprocal for somebody emotionally. So that means that you really do have to have both skill sets to be empathetic, compassionate, caring. Sometimes if somebody's just hearing you out, they may not necessarily be empathetic. They
right,
just might just be listening, right? So being emotionally reciprocal means that you actually are um, listening, not to react, but to respond empathetically
right,
to
right,
whatever it is that they are coming to you for.
right,
So
right.
I was
Yeah,
very careful in how I said that, because we do, when someone is like, if I'm talking to you and I'm hurt, you're listening, not just to react to whatever I say, but if you know my state of mind and heart at the time, you have to, not just me, I'm using me as an
right,
example, would want to respond empathetically. And
right.
in order to really be empathetic, you have to care
Yeah,
and to show compassion.
yeah,
And just because somebody's listening doesn't always mean that they care or that they're showing compassion.
yeah, yeah. Because they could be sitting there doing this. Yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Oh, mm-hmm. But when they say, "Oh yeah, I can understand how that would hurt," yeah, I'm sorry that happened to you.
yeah.
Those kinds of things are more compassionate.
And you know what, Mickey G, when the person is, yeah, yeah, I know, I'm hearing the echo. I'm sorry. Um, that lacks. That's a lack of emotional intelligence.
Right,
Yeah,
right. It's dismissive.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So anyway, how can you tell if emotional reciprocity is alive and well in your relationship, or if it's missing? Some signs of that is if the other person is mutually vulnerable.
hmm,
You're vulnerable, he's vulnerable. You
right,
feel like you can talk to each other about anything. That
right,
means that you both are emotionally reciprocal to each other's needs. When you're in a relationship, and I've been where you're afraid to talk about a topic or a subject of interest
hmm,
with someone, because they're already not interested. They're emotionally unintelligent, shall I say. They lack emotional intelligence, right?
yeah,
And when you're in a relationship where you cannot be vulnerable, you're not in the right relationship. You should be able to, with your significant other, address any and everything and expect to receive that emotional reciprocity in return. There is balanced emotional support when you're in a healthy reciprocal relationship. You know that whatever you give, you're going to receive, and it works both ways. And you are nourished after going to that person that you're talking to. You don't come away feeling depressed, depleted, or burnt out like, oh, that conversation was just so hard. That's not an emotional reciprocal relationship, but we'll talk about it in just a minute when we come right back.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for returning to Gab with Golden Bronze. Listen, I want to tell you all before we continue with emotional reciprocity a little bit about Gab with Golden Bronze. We sponsor a 501c3 nonprofit organization called GAB, called Golden Swan Cadre. And that organization advocates against domestic violence towards women, but it also advocates for some really good things. It advocates for women's health, overall maternity, mental self care, and mindfulness. And we do some really good things within that organization, but I am going to ask my co host to elaborate on that in just a little bit. Nikki G?
I'm happy to do that. As Golden Bronze just mentioned, Gab with Golden Bronze sponsors the Golden Swan Cadre. I'm a proud legacy member of the Golden Swan Cadre and a survivor of domestic violence. I'm now a thriver because I've done the work by getting therapy and being determined to just make it. It wasn't easy starting over from scratch. Financial, emotional, mental challenges, and assuring the safety of the victim due to the fear of the abuser are all things survivors can encounter. So I joined Golden Swan Cadre to help women much like myself who are in similar circumstances as I once was. As I stated, there are so many hurdles to overcome and things to work through. Support during these transitions are important. That's why Golden Swan Cadre offers peer-to-peer support and educational programs to help women understand more about what domestic abuse is, how it affects her and or her children, which encourages them to seek out resources and therapy to help her work through the trauma brought on by that abuse. When women leave their abusers and go into the shelters, oftentimes they leave with just the clothes on their backs and not much more. So once they leave the shelters and connect with Golden Swan Cadre, we assist women as they begin the single head of household journey with certain needs that they might have specific to them. This is why we're asking for your support. Golden Swan Cadre is mostly self-funded. But please donate anything from $1 up to whatever amount is in your heart to Golden Swan Cadre. Every dollar adds up. Again, those funds are used to help survivors become thrivers like us. You can donate to Golden Swan Cadre on the Givelify app or on the Givelify website. Once on the website, enter Golden Swan Cadre. You may also go to our website to find the other ways to donate, and you can donate on the website www.goldenswancadre.com. Look around on our website to get more information about our organization, our initiatives, and our projects. You can easily donate in just one step by going to the website. We thank you in advance for your generous support as you join us in making a positive impact for this worthy cause. Thank you in advance again. Golden Bronze?
Thank you, Mickey G. And you know what? That's where we really learned how to be reciprocal emotionally, is by dealing with people like we've already experienced these things, dealing with survivors of domestic violence.
Right.
I wanted to know if you wanted to talk about the mutuality of emotional reciprocity.
Yes, in relationships that we were talking about before.
Yes.
I have this saying that you should make the atmosphere conducive for the truth
Mhm.
so that you have this trust built between you. Sometimes it takes baby steps to see if you can trust another person, but if you're giving up certain things that are sensitive and they're giving certain things that are sensitive, it levels the playing field, and that trust is built between that reciprocation of information and the way that you receive it of them and the way you respond. So
Mhm.
in relationships, it's very important that you make the atmosphere conducive for the truth and not punitive. When someone tells you the truth, you don't beat them up, you don't yell at them, you don't do all those things. That's abusive anyway. But make it where they feel comfortable talking with you.
Exactly. Barriers to reciprocity. That's basically what you're saying, particularly emotional reciprocity, refer to factors that hinder the mutual exchange of emotional support, empathy, or affection between individuals in a relationship.
Mhm.
Emotional reciprocity is crucial in building trust, as we've said, intimacy and balance in relationships, whether they're romantic, familiar, or platonic, friends, even, you know? When it's lacking, the relationship can feel one sided or emotionally draining to the other party. Now, I know we've all had that friend that I have that has called up and right after saying hello starts right in with the problem,
Yes,
never hearing what I'm saying about me, like my issues are of no concern.
right.
And all we ever do is talk about her issues, her problems, and her concerns. And then when it comes around to you, you don't feel like it's being reciprocated. Have you ever experienced that before?
Yes, I have. If if you're talking to them and they said, "Well, gotta go," know,
Yeah.
or vice versa. They're just dumping on you. They didn't say, "Hey, are you busy? Do you have a minute? I'd like to talk about something if you have time." And then that gives you the opportunity to receive them instead of just getting bombarded with a bunch of a bunch of
Damn.
things. So, yeah.
The friend that you don't, you're like, oh, do I
Oh,
have time for this?
there's one I know. I call her the yeah, but. So whatever you say, she said, "Yeah, but this, yeah, but." It doesn't matter what you say.
It makes you wonder, why are you calling me? If but you have the answer.
Trash can.
But Mickey, some of those barriers to people being able to be reciprocal could be that they're just emotionally unavailable. Um, they may have some mental health issues like depression, anxiety, post traumatic stress disorder, or narcissistic personality disorder, that can inhibit their ability to even be reciprocal. They may have communication problems or power imbalances. You know how they got to be that person that's controlling, which is an abusive behavior in itself, right?
Yeah.
Fear of intimacy. Maybe it's a guy that he just doesn't feel like he can be vulnerable. Uh, that sometimes that makes them feel, I don't know, they used to call it henpecked back in the day. I don't know what the word is today, or rejected. I don't know. There's a word that some men are just afraid to be vulnerable.
I know. I know that part. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's finish this up in just a moment.
Okay.
All right, all right. Thank you for rejoining us. So, and when we left off, we were talking about how some men are afraid to be vulnerable. The word back in my parents' day was man would feel henpecked if he was too
Yeah.
vulnerable.
Yeah. Now a simp. You're being a simp.
And I guess that stands for simple man, but a simp to me is a good man. I don't care what nobody say. He's
Mm-hmm.
not afraid to show his love and affection, of be vulnerable, transparent. And that makes him a good man, in my opinion.
I agree. Mm-hmm. I
But
agree.
sometimes, Mickey G, people feel entitled and they can't be reciprocal emotionally, or they are self-centered,
Mm-hmm.
um, like, look at me, it's all about me. No, no, over here, over here. And everything you do, oh yeah, I did that too. And or whatever. I did it better, bigger, faster, whatever. So they can't be reciprocal, or they just may have past relationship traumas, and they just don't have what you need um, to fill that gap.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to know your audience.
Yeah. The information I read said that cultural or gender-based emotional suppression could be a reason that a person is not emotionally reciprocal. So I'm not sure what that means unless in their culture, uh, say it's a man, it's just not good, I guess maybe. To that would be a terrible thing though, but
Yeah.
you know,
Um, I think that saying, better to be seen and not heard, maybe as a child, they were told to be seen and not heard. And then as a woman in certain cultures, you're seen and not heard. You're heard when I ask you to speak. Those kind of cultural things could be looks to that kind of reciprocity.
yep, that's true. So what I did was I went into a couple of inboxes. We've done this before, and so I asked for some situations or examples of when people felt like they were not being uh, reciprocated emotionally. They reached out to somebody else, and one was a listener submitted a story saying, as an example, a young lady would try to talk to her husband about issues that concerned her, about things that he would say or do that would hurt her feelings or made her feel indifferent. And after she would have the conversation with him about whatever it is, like she said, honey, I want to talk to you about something, and talk to him about whatever it is, he would always tell her that, oh, it doesn't matter, like
Hmm.
negated her feelings all the
Hmm.
time.
Hmm.
And no matter what the issue was that she would present to him to try to discuss, he would simply reply that he didn't want to discuss it because her feelings didn't matter. Needless to say, they ended up in a divorce. He was just emotionally unavailable. He lacked emotional intelligence. He just didn't, either he really felt her feelings didn't matter or he just didn't. I don't know. I really am not a psychologist, so I can't say, but that is an example of not being emotionally reciprocal.
Right. Well, either it could be that his father was unavailable emotionally and he watched that, or he doesn't know what to say, so he just says nothing.
He says it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
That's a big thing. Your
yeah,
feelings don't
don't
matter.
matter. Yeah, but that may be a smokescreen for I don't really know what to say to her. I don't have
Yes.
anything to say, so let's just dismiss it.
And they got a divorce. She
Wow.
dismissed the marriage.
Wow.
Uh, here's another one. Um, a young lady, anonymous source, realized that their friendship was entirely one sided. And I can relate to this, and I think you can too.
Yeah.
There was a friendship between two females, and one friend, we will refer to her as friend number one, would always ask the other friend, who we will refer to as friend number two, to do things for her, favors, and give her rides and things like that. And friend number uh, two would always do what friend number one wanted her to do. Whatever outings they shared together, friend number one would always ask friend number two, what do you want to do? And the one that's always compliant would do whatever that friend wanted to do, always. It was never what she wanted to do,
Right.
it was always what her friend wanted to do. And whenever she wanted to do something or talk about something, that friend that she was always there for would always be too busy to hear her out, to do what she wanted to do, or to be available for her for any time she needed her. And that's kind of what you just said. I'm too busy. You kind of had the heart cart. What is it? The cart before
Not
the
before the horse.
and you didn't even know. And so that's a one-sided friendship. One friend was always available for the other friend, always did what she wanted to do, always asked her, what do you wanted to do? And then did what she wanted to do. And then when she would do that, the friend was too busy to do it,
Wow. Yeah.
never had time for her to hear her out. If she called her friend to talk, the friend was always too busy. That is definitely a one-sided friendship. That is also an example of lacking emotional reciprocity.
Hmm. Yes, I agree that. that's not really a friendship because there's no exchange. It's
Right.
just you have a bucket for me to dump it in,
Yeah.
and then I have nothing for you. There's an exchange in a friendship,
Right.
in a
And there's an
relationship.
exchange in emotional reciprocity. We
Right,
talked about that in the very beginning. It's
right,
mutual. Yeah.
right. It's mutual, and that's how you build trust in a friendship. If that happens too many times, someone tells me they don't have time for me, they don't have time for me, then I will take my friendship to a place where it's appreciated. I've often said, don't go where you tolerate it, go where you celebrate it.
Okay, because I was about to ask you, what would you suggest that friend do to change that relationship? And your answer, I guess, would be just to find another friend that had time for it, right?
Well, I would probably address it with her if the relationship was important enough to her and say, you know what, I'm usually bending to what you want to do, but I don't see you coming back this way. Is there some reason for that, or is it am I misunderstanding you? You know, because I could be misunderstanding what you're doing, and so just tell me, and then we can kind of work this out. And if they have nothing for you, to the left.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Well, you
Yeah.
know, we are a little ahead here, and we do have a second part. So, we can go ahead and um, in this part actually and meet everybody in a few minutes. You
Okay.
know.
Off to the next room.
Yeah.
See you in a bit.
All right.
And now, on to our program.
So we were talking about emotional reciprocity, and emotional reciprocity is what turns connection into intimacy and conversation into communion, actually. It doesn't mean giving perfectly every single time to someone, but it does mean showing up, listening deeply, and being willing to be vulnerable as well. When people see that you are being mutually vulnerable, they feel more like that what they are saying is being received. Um, I would like to ask you a question. Who in your life makes you feel emotionally safe? And do you do the same for them? And this is for the audience to think about. But Mickey G, you can answer the question since I asked the audience. But this is just basically for the audience to think about. Who in your lives makes you feel emotionally safe? And do you reciprocate?
There's two people that come to mind. My father is one, and my significant other is another one. I feel emotionally safe.
So, since they are your father and your significant other, the answer would be yes, you
Yes,
reciprocate, I would
yes,
assume.
I absolutely do. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and that's.
So,
Go ahead.
one of the questions that people struggle with is why do other people struggle with emotional reciprocity?
Mm,
Well, emotional reciprocity often proves more challenging than practical tasks like cooking a meal and giving someone a ride. You have to have a certain level of emotional intelligence to be able to reciprocate it. A balanced emotional landscape requires empathy, and you mentioned that earlier,
right,
active listening, and vulnerable expression. That takes courage to do. You need to be truly able to hear another person's fears and joys and be able to respond empathetically. Empathetically. A lot of people don't
right,
confuse that, but if you feel like you can't empathetically respond, then it's probably best to say very little because
right,
that can create more trauma. with the person who has decided that you're the person that they want to confide in. A lot of people ask, can you learn emotional reciprocity? Absolutely. You can learn that through self awareness. People often learn reciprocity by observing others. Say, like, if I thought you were more reciprocal than me, then I might pay
Mhm.
attention to some of the key words that you use, or some of uh, the ways that you might respond to certain things. You learn through feedback from your significant other. A lot of times, people will say, "Hey, when I said this and you said that, that really didn't feel like I was being taken seriously, or that you really cared." So if you listen to respond and not to react, you can learn better behaviors on how to be reciprocal. Therapy and coaching, especially for those who grew up in emotionally neglectful or abusive environments, the kind of people that you and I talk to and deal with, reciprocity might not come naturally.
Right.
Therapy can help. Communication and training, like we said, watching other people that you feel like are really good with emotional intelligence and reciprocity, going to workshops, YouTubing it. There's all kind of therapy sessions right there on YouTube.
Yeah.
People that give, they're licensed professional counselors or psychologists that actually talk to us on YouTube about these very things that we can learn from. you know and then you wonder, how do you approach someone who doesn't seem to have the skill of emotional reciprocity? Well, before you initiate that conversation, you need to ask, are they unaware that they're unemotionally available, or that they're unavailably
Right. Hmm.
emotionally? Are they aware of it? Because remember how we say, Nikki, in our training, a lot of people don't realize that they are the abuser.
Right.
A lot of people may
Hmm.
not be aware that they're emotionally unavailable. You know,
Right.
do they show reciprocity in other ways if they can't verbally speak it? Do their actions show it? Is this a pattern or a recent change? Could there have been some event, like a traumatized woman, a victim of abuse or something, who just doesn't have it to give right now
Yeah.
because she's already dealing with her own lack of it, or understanding why the reciprocity is lacking? That person may need to have some awareness. We mentioned earlier about understanding why they're not emotionally reciprocal. It could be trauma from their past that they haven't healed from. So if a person is traumatized or suffering from post traumatic stress disorder, they can't offer you any emotional reciprocity. And you got to choose the right moment to talk to people. If you're having a problem with them, you pick a time when everybody's calm and you're in a private environment and not defensive. You don't feel like that they will come off defensive, like not through a text message. That is not the right way
Hmm.
to tell somebody how they are making you feel, because in a text message, you can't you can't determine the tone of that person, right?
Right.
And don't use statements like I, you know, or you. You never listen to me and I get upset.
Right.
That's
Hmm.
triggering to the other person. And it's a normal response to feel somewhat defensive. So it's
Right.
your delivery and your presentation. And don't assume that they know that they're not emotionally reciprocal. Like I said, people are not aware that they're the abuser. Some of us weren't even aware that we were being abused, that we were the abusee,
That's
right?
true. That's
Years without even realizing that that's what we were dealing with.
going through.
Well, on
Yeah.
the flip, they may not realize that they're emotionally unavailable unless somebody brings it to their attention.
Right.
So I just wanted to say that, and this brings my part to a conclusion of another amazing episode of Gab with Golden Bronze. We laugh, we learn, and we celebrate the beauty of connection, just like we do every time that Nikki G and I are together. So I'm going to let her take it on out from here. But whether you're tuning in from the dinner table, the carpool lane, or winding down with the family at home, I thank you for being a part of Gab with Golden Bronze. And Nikki G, it's
Absolutely.
all you now.
Thank you, Golden Brian. Gab with Golden Bronze is a family focused TV radio broadcast that is rated G, covering topics from A to Z. Golden Bronze often says anything goes on Gab with Golden Bronze, covering a whole spectrum of changing topics and entertainment, simple and straight to the point. In rotation, we have Decadent Destinations, her Lux list of travel. The transformative path focuses on personal growth and mindset. And lastly, the knowledge vault, a treasure trove of information where each episode unlocks fascinating and unexpected insights on how to build and maintain healthy relationships. This broadcast helps you to evolve and become empowered to be a better version of yourself, to live a next level life. You can also hear and watch Gab with Golden Bronze, brought to you by VGN Television, and listen to Gab with Golden Bronze currently every Saturday at 11 a.m. Central Time and 12 noon Eastern Time on VGN Radio, powered by Zeno FM, with additional monitoring through online radio box on the following stations: Rockbox FM, USA; Culture Shock Radio, Canada; Radio Forcio, Mexico; Wapta Music FM, Guadeloupe, which is an island near France. You can download the VGN app from the following download links. For iOS, for Apple, if you're using iPhones or those computers, and for Android, use Google Play Store. You can hear the podcast version currently every Sunday at 12 noon Central Time or 1 p.m. Eastern Time on PUSO 82.3 FM. Days and times fluctuate, so listen to stay current with the airing. Get with Gold and Bronze is coming soon to a few streaming networks, so stay tuned. We'll let you know about that. Join us on our YouTube channel at Gab with Gold and Bronze. Subscribe, like, and share to hear all of our podcast versions. And again, as Gold and Bronze said, we thank you for being here with us. We hope you have a wonderful day.
Well, she said, thank you, BJ.
Okay. Y'all have a good day. We're out.